this is Danielle, also known as Gently Smiling Jaws, and welcome to a Flosstube Extra. I just went to the Viking Fiber Festival just briefly, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit, but figured it was enough of a thing. I would make a separate, hopefully not too long video, just to kind of talk a little bit about my experience there. And I first heard about flock last year, I think, either during or just before when it was happening. So it's a fiber festival. I forget how many years it's been going on. Maybe it was this year the third, maybe. I know it's pretty new, and it's held in Seattle in a building that's part of the convention center, which I had not been to before. It's, if you're familiar with Seattle, it's across from the Paramount Theater. It's the Summit building. And yeah, so I didn't go last year, but I had my eye on it for this year. But I wasn't so all in with it because my main hobby recently has been cross stitching, and although I've done a little bit of crochet and a little bit of knitting, I haven't been involved in it enough to really be, I mean, I wanted to go to the festival, but I wasn't sort of as excited about the festival as somebody who is really into their crochet and knitting. So I had sort of skimmed the list of classes when it became available, determined that there wasn't anything that, you know, nothing that was calling to me, and so I just got a marketplace ticket, and this was back months ago, and then didn't really have any sort of plans about what I was doing. Because I live in Seattle, it wasn't like I was making a far trip. I was just heading downtown. And so as it got closer, I was going to go with a couple people. One of them ended up, but the plan was I ended up having family stuff to take care of on Saturday and was going to go on Sunday, and then one of the people I was going to go with fell ill and wasn't able to come, so that was, you know, a disappointment to me. But I did go down on Sunday. So for me, flock was just going down on Sunday and going through the marketplace. And oh, I should mention what I am drinking. It is very warm here today, and so this is a cranberry apple tisane. I don't remember what company it's from. It was given to me by a friend, and I just have a small amount of it left, but I brewed some up and I dumped it in with a bunch of ice because it is very, very warm. Now, as I am looking, as when I poured it into this, I am slightly staining my coaster with cranberry, but that's okay. That's what a coaster's for. Alright, so just ahead of going down to flock, what was like the week leading up to flock, I was sort of remembered my promise to myself that since I had been working on a pair of socks, my promise to myself was I couldn't buy any more supplies for making socks until I made a pair of socks using yarn and needles that I had on hand. And if I finished those socks and then I wanted to do more socks, then, you know, then I would be allowed to buy more supplies. So in the week leading up to flock, I realized that, well, I had finished my first sock. My second sock was partially done. I had done the cuff and part of the leg. I was doing working cuff down, but still needed to work down far enough to do the heel, do the rest of the foot and the toe. So I had a ways to go. So as it was that week before flock, I realized I better get working on that sock. So that sort of became my mission, and I did complete my socks. So this was sock number 1. Sock number 1 is, it's big and it's slouchy and there's lots of issues with it. There were sections I had to rip out numerous times because it was my first time doing magic loop. and also I hadn't knit in a long time, so there were multiple things. So this was definitely a learning experience, but I got through it. Then I started sock number 2. This sock is considerably smaller. I will hold up here. This sock is considerably smaller, but it was a much smoother process to get it done. I didn't have to rip stuff out. It fits a lot better than the first one, so I don't know how much I will wear these, and I will probably just wear them at home around my place and actually, wearing them out. But what I like about them is I can visually see that I made progress between the first sock and the second sock, and that's, just part of the thing is that when you start something that you're not going to be good at it, and it's going to take some time to get there. But I finished my pair of socks, and that's something that I don't always make like New Year's resolutions, but sometimes I think, well, there's things I would maybe want to try. And a few years back, I think I had said I wanted to knit a pair of socks, and then I never really got around to it until I very slowly worked my way through this pair. But I finished this. In fact, I sewed up the toe on this sock the day before. So on the Saturday when I didn't go to flocking, the Saturday evening, I sewed up the toe. And so I finished my socks before flock, which meant I was allowed to get sock supplies. And also it may have, I'd have to look back and check, but it may have actually been years since I have bought yarn, because I did buy yarn some time back for some projects that I was working on, including the crochet blanket that I am still working on. But because I haven't done sort of crafts involving yarn, I haven't been as invested in that in quite a while. My focus has been more on cross stitch. I just haven't done stuff. So anyway, I went into flock knowing that I guess the focus was, because I had made the pair of socks and I wanted to make the pattern again, and maybe I will try other sock patterns, but because I did that first pair, I'm like, I want to make another pair using that pattern, and really sort of get that into my head, get my skills up, and then decide where I'm going to go from there. So I was looking for sock yarn. I had some ideas of maybe some other things that I wanted to buy, but I wasn't trying to spend a ton of money. I did spend more than I intended, but that's how those things go. So, overall thoughts, I really liked the space that sort of the marketplace area was in, and there were a lot of vendors. I think there were over 100 vendors, and obviously it's local to me and bringing in lots of folks from other places, so that makes it very much a plus for me, and something that I will likely attend again in the future. Baby classes is not something I'm really looking for right now, because this is sort of like a side hobby to my other hobbies, but I quite liked it. And really I only took advantage of the marketplace. I didn't pay attention to any of the other talks or things that they were doing, so I was there just for the marketplace. My game plan going in was walked through all the booths, made mental notes of things that caught my attention, but I did not actually make any purchases until going through the entirety of the marketplace. And obviously this meant there was a chance that things could sell out before I snapped them up, but again, I feel like if this was maybe some big cross-stitch thing, then I may have been more in there grabbing stuff right away, but since I don't have my head wrapped around the knitting and crochet stuff, and I've like barely looked at Ravelry over the last few years until recently, but I was fine with kind of being somewhat removed, going through, trying to be more intentional about the purchases that I did make. So I went through, then went back to the beginning again and started to pick up, make purchases. So I will go through and show what I got, and then I'm going to mention some other things that I was, kind of thinking about, or stuff for the future. So going through, when I went back to what was for me the start, I think the way that the booths were numbered, I started on the end that were the last few booths. I think it was it like 100 and 109, 107, something like that. There was over 100, so I started at the end with the highest number of booths and then worked my way back through. First sock yarns that I picked up were from NanoStitch Labs, and the colors are Tongass National Forest and Gooey Duck. And if you know about gooey ducks. But these, I was just thinking on colors, and some of the yarns that I picked up were with the intention of using them together, and I don't know if I'm going to do that for this or not. I just may use them by themselves or with a different contrasting color, but these were the first that I picked up, and the fiber breakdown on these is they are 463 yards, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and this base is called a scientific sock. But the colors were just colors that I like, the greens and the modeling on this, and then the colors there that just these looked fun. So these were my first purchases. Next, as I went through, I stopped at a booth, the Thought to Thread booth, and these may be I haven't started anything with these yet, because these may be the socks that I am most excited to make, is using both of these together, and I want to get in more practice before I do anything with these. These, and from Thought to Thread, this is their Resilience fingering weight base, 437 yards. The fiber is 80% superwash wool, 10% cashmere, and 10% recycled nylon. This color is honeycomb, and this one is the golden emotions one, and I'd have to look back and see what exactly was meant by the emotions tag, something about if they're like limited or the colorway. I don't remember. I know it was mentioned when I was there in the booth when the fellow there was talking to somebody else, and I do not remember. What I do remember is this one is called the golden one. Talking to the fellow there, and he said that what he had in mind when dyeing these colors, that he had watched now I'm blanking on the name of it. Is it just K-pop Demon Hunters that's on Netflix? I have heard about it. I don't have Netflix anymore, but I have heard some of the songs from it, and so apparently Golden was sort of the inspiration for these. But I thought that the pairing of these two colors was, and so I am looking at making at some point down the road a pair of socks with a kind of contrasting, whether it's cuff, toe, and heel, or how exactly I do it, using these two colors together. So not ready to do it just yet because I want to have more practice, but I know these colors really caught my attention, and looking forward to using those. Next up, and this, because I have already started this is the merman bag that I was using for the other socks that I now have done. Back ages ago, I had bought, and I pulled this was from Zoe Designs Limited, or zoesbagboutique.com is where I got these bags from. I had bought a number at the time, both for myself and to give as gifts, and so I was using one for that other pair of socks. I've got a spinning project in one, and then I grabbed another one for this socks. So one of the other booths I stopped at was Hazel Knits, which is local here in Seattle. I know where they're located. I have never made it down in person, but I did pick up two colorways of their yarn, and I have the labels shoved in the balls after I wound them. So I'll look up the information and add it to the video. But I got graphite and Mopop. And again, if you're familiar with Seattle, you know what was the EMP, the Experience Music project, is now Mopop, the Museum for Popular Culture. And the building is very distinctive, and this is the color of the building. So I grabbed those two, and I have already started in on another sock. This is using the same I'm So Basic sock pattern. That pattern called for contrasting colors on the cuff, heel, and toe, but for my first pair, I didn't want it any more complicated than it needed to be, so I went ahead and started in on, let's see, is it gonna focus? Focus. There we go. Yeah, so I went ahead and started. I am using the same size 2 circulars that I used for my last socks, and I have ordered some smaller needles, but I did want to get started right away. And this yarn, I think, kind of looked the floofiest out of the stuff that I got, and so I went ahead and went back to the size 2s I had used before and have started in on this. So I am very happy with how it's turning out so far. I think, you know, it's certainly looking better than the last socks that I did. I am finding it much easier to kind of keep track of where I am at in the pattern and the number of stitches that I should have on. I do think I'm kind of knitting probably too tightly, that my gauge is tighter than it should be, just because I was worried about things being too loose from last one, so I think I am overcompensating in the other direction, but we will see. Yeah, so this is what I have started on since flock, and making some progress. This is probably the quickest progress that I have made so far, but yeah, so I am kind of happy with how it's turning out, and I am a fan of gray with kind of brighter colors with it, which will come into play with something I will mention later, which I did not end up getting, but kind of have bookmarked for future. Yeah, so again, from Hazel Knits, and we'll see how this goes. And I am, you know, so far I'm liking the yarn, and hopefully I continue to like it, because since they are close by, and it would be easy for me to go and get more yarn from them. That's, I guess, both a good and a bad thing. Bad because it would be dangerous, but yeah, that is my progress so far. All right. So the next place I purchased from was Viking Fiber Company, and what drew me there was that I got these two skeins. It's their Torig sock base, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 463 yards. And this one here is called Marine Layer, and this one is Castello. Marine Layer was actually the one that I wanted to go grab when I went back, because they had a sample sock knitted up that used this on like the toe and heel, and I just really like that, you know, just a little bit. Are you gonna, here, let's not have you, come on camera. There we go. I just like that little bit of kind of variation in color there, and I like this a lot. So this is what to it. I later found out that this color and another color were sort of their flock special colorways, and the other color, the one that had been used for kind of the main body of that sock, had already sold out. But I picked up this Castello one to go with it, and one of the fellows running the booth, and I am not good with names, and I do not know was, but I believe he is the owner, or one of the owners, that he said that this was his favorite, the colors there, so I figured that those would work well together. So that was my second to last. After I bought these, I thought I was done, and then I walked a little further and realized that there was this that I got along with something else. This was the Juni Si booth. This color is called Space Age Love Song. This is their fingering sock weight, 462 yards, 75% merino, 25% nylon, and it is a super wash. But I saw this, and I was quite enamored of that color, and so I got this skein, and then I also got this skein, which I have now already wound up. It is, come on, let's focus in, sort of a mauvey color with kind of dark blue in there, and the name of this color was called Cloud Busting, and that is my favorite song by Kate Bush. So those were the two skeins that I picked up from there, and I was actually going to use the Cloud Busting first, but after I went through and was looking at it and looking at, you know, kind of how the size of the yarn, I thought, I'm gonna wait till I get the smaller needles. So that's why I started in with the Hazel Knits instead. So those are the entirety of my purchases. Other things that I wanted to mention, because this is kind of notes to myself for the future as well. Things that I either sort of missed out on or passed up buying because I had already spent sort of more than I had meant to. There was a booth called Zeezee Textiles, and they had a flock exclusive sock set that was called Squim, and it came with the main color, and then I think it may have had like 2 mini skeins with it to do like the cuff and heel and toe. And I had seen that on my first go around. There was that, and then there was another set. There was in different colors as well, but I think the Squim one was exclusive for flock. I didn't realize it at the time, and I noticed it on my first go around. I don't remember if there were actually any sets left at the time that I saw it, or if I was just looking at the knitted sample that was in the booth. But I saw it. I also liked that it was a silk sock base, so it had, I don't know the exact fiber content, but it had silk in with the wool, and I thought it was very pretty, but I wasn't making any decisions on my first go round. So when I was going back through, went back to the booth, I realized that they were, you know, sold out of that set. They still had some of the other just kind of 2-color sock set, but it didn't grab me quite as much, and I knew I had more to go through on my actually buying on my buying go through of the booth. So I ended up not picking up anything, but I did I have bookmarked their site, following them on social media just to keep an eye on them for the future. And Also, there was a booth from the company Seismic Yarns, and I didn't pick up anything from them. I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit now, but I bought enough. It's going to keep me busy for a while. I didn't need to get it, but they had some colorways that included ones that were gray with pops of brighter color in it, and they also had the setup with like a black light on the light so you could see how things were, you know, like UV reactive. And I really like some of those. I looked through there. I was trying to decide. I was having a hard time deciding. I couldn't really make up my mind, and I again like kind of with the other stuff, I knew there was more of the show to go through, where there was stuff that I knew for certain what I wanted to get or had a good idea. So I ended up not picking up anything from them, but again, now following on social media, have bookmarked their site so I can go back and keep an eye for the future. Continuing through, Spincycle Yarns. I know they're from here in Washington. I do have some of their yarn. I've used some, and I still have, like, you know, a little bit in my stash. I knew that they were going to have stuff there that was sort of like sets of yarn for various, you know, kind of popular projects, and I'm sure that they had more on Saturday when things first opened. What was there, as I looked through, it didn't immediately catch my attention as something that I wanted to. And for projects like that, if it's, you know, the shawls or things like that are big enough where you're going to need enough yarn to do it, it's not an inexpensive outlay of funds, and so I didn't want to get something that I didn't really know that I wanted if I was buying a large enough amount of yarn for that. And the things that I kind of had in mind is, and I forget how many years the pattern's been out, but like that Night Shift shawl by Andrea Mowry. I have done the cowl version of that a number of years ago. I knit the cowl, and then I think I have another one that's like part way. I haven't finished it. I was using yarn I had on hand and was sort of playing yarn chicken, and I haven't gotten back to actually finishing it. But I'm just like with cross stitch. I think I'm more of a process knitter and crocheter than necessarily using the, you know, finished pieces. But also I would, if I'm going through the process of making it, I would like it to be something that I would use, and I've discovered I am not so much a cowl person, so the stuff that I have made I haven't used. And so looking at kind of the sets of stuff, there were certainly some beautiful, you know, colors and stuff, but I was looking at stuff and thinking, realistically, if I get this and make it, am I going to use the item that I have created? And the answer was no. And I hadn't put thought into, like, if I was going to do a night shift, what colors should I use so that I will, you know, actually make use of the finished item. And so it wasn't something I had thought about beforehand, and I wasn't going to try and make that decision there on the marketplace floor. That's something that I would need to sit down and kind of think about and plan out. So something where I may make a purchase down the road, but I was not ready to do that there and then. So I looked at the pretty yarn and I passed by. Also, when I was in the Miss Babs booth, there were some things there that I was drawn to but did not pick up. There was some sparkly fingering, you know, sock yarn, and I was looking at that, and, you know, again, sort of almost decided to do stuff, but like, okay, you're buying enough stuff, you need to make a lot of socks to use up the stuff that you've already got. So let's maybe hold off for now. So I held off on the sparkly yarn. There was also a scarf that was on display that had like had a base color, and then there were stripes of blues and a gradient, and the pattern of that was a scarf or shawl called Surfliner by Monster Knits. And I guess Miss Babs had done a number of, you can get like sort of the kits or yarn sets of yarn to make this, and I really liked it, but again, I wasn't ready to be diving into that just yet, particularly because not being the most experienced knitter and not being familiar with the pattern, and like this is something where I need to take a look and determine whether this pattern is something I can manage to do myself before I outlay that much money on yarn. So those were kind of things that I have bookmarked, made note of for things I might want to try down the road, but I wasn't ready to pull the trigger on just yet. So I feel like I had a successful trip there because I just finished socks. My focus was I wanted to make more socks. I picked up yarn specifically to make socks, and I have already started another pair of socks. So that's sort of what I'm on. I took a grand total of, I guess it was technically 2, only one of the photos isn't very good, but I did take pictures of the sheep that Wild Rose Farm brought, and that's the only picture taking that I did. When I'm there experiencing, I'm not good about taking photos. I don't want to focus on doing that. I want to focus on what's in front of me and doing that. So I don't really have photos to share, but yeah, there were plenty of places selling fiber, but I have quite a stash of fiber. I have fiber from Wild Rose Farm already, because that's so I had ordered from, and the most recent thing that I had started spinning some time ago, and I've got my spinning project is in one of the bags, just like those little bags I was showing, but I haven't done enough spinning recently, and I have so much fiber on hand to spin that the fiber was something off the list. I was not allowed to purchase any fiber, so I looked at stuff but my focus was on getting yarn for socks, and that is what I did. And yeah, I think that sort of wraps up what I wanted to say. Terribly exciting. Just wanted to get down my thoughts, show the the items that I picked up and what I've started in on, and figured it was better as a separate video than as part of something where I'm supposed to be focusing on my cross stitch. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you